Today, this TikToker is very upset about being called sir in public despite having a full beard. Let's hear Caesar out, I guess.
So I got served today at the pharmacy, and I'm not saying men can't look like this because please go off, kings. But like, I'm not doing damage to masculinity. I think y'all are when you serve me, when you call me a man, right? Like, I'm not a man. Don't consider me for the pool of men. And maybe the people who are like, oh, masculinity is in decline, will stop thinking I'm doing anything with it. I'm not part of that equation. Count me out.
So maybe I'm just a cynic, or just heartless, or just not a nice guy, but I find myself unable to have even an ounce of sympathy for someone who goes out in public with a full beard, a male who goes out in public with a full beard, and then is upset at being called sir. What did you expect? I see that this person has breast implants, so they're sending mixed messages, but maybe they didn't take a look at your body. They just saw your male face with a full beard and called you sir. To me, that is not a hate crime. That is not an outrage. That is not even a mistake. Now, if you said, please don't call me sir, I think a service person should be polite and maybe just call you something else or avoid the issue. But to go out with this expectation or this entitlement that you can walk through the world fully appearing, at least shoulders up, as a male and as a man, and then not be called sir or viewed to be a man, just strikes me as totally unreasonable. And the whole thing, this obsession with how you're perceived by others or validated or not validated by others, is incredibly narcissistic. I mean, I support all day this person's right to dress however they please, to look, mix and match the different gender associations of the things about how they present themselves. It's a free country. Do what you will, but you can't do these things and then act like you're victimized when people make completely understandable assumptions about you. Now, in fairness, this person didn't really freak out the way that many of the TikTokers do upon being misgendered, but they do seem perplexed or confused by it, as if it's some sort of mystery or like doesn't make sense. It actually makes perfect sense. 99.99% of people just use pronouns that correspond with their biological sex. And in the cases where people don't, you're going to have to ask for that and hope that people choose to accommodate it, or at least present very, if you're wanting to be called ma'am or she or her, you're going to have to at least make some effort to present that way for any everyday person to even consider calling you that. And if you make no such effort whatsoever, or in fact, as you appear to do, seem to actively attempt to mix and match parts of both genders to make yourself unclear or ambiguous, although I don't really think it was successful, but because I do think this person is unambiguously male appearing. But if that's what you're going to do, you can't then complain when people still call you sir. I mean, they're just being polite. They're just doing their job. So there's not much to get up in arms here about from the perspective of this individual. And just more broadly, I'm really sick of seeing these videos on TikTok and other places on the internet where people aren't called what they like to be called, and then they come on the internet and complain about it. Like, don't you have any real problems? Don't you have actual things going wrong? If this is the biggest problem in your day today, you must have a pretty good life, is all I'll say. Like, you actually, to speak of privilege, as people on the left love to do, you actually must be pretty privileged if that's like an issue for you or something you feel the need to vent about or seek feedback about, because it's not that big a deal. What some random person who's serving you somewhere calls you sir or ma'am or whatever. I mean, if I called someone on the phone and they referred to me as ma'am, for example, because say my voice sounded high on the phone or whatever, I wouldn't care. I'd just be like, yeah, sure. And if I felt some need to correct them because I was ordering like men's clothes or something where it was relevant, I would probably do so. But regardless, like some random person's word choice doesn't really meaningfully affect me. And that's where I think a lot of the pronoun people just kind of go astray, is that they need to focus on having a sense of self that's strong enough to not constantly be needing external validation and not need to be desperate for the rest of the world to validate you. Like if you're actually confident in your own sense of self, you don't need that. You don't really care. As long as people aren't actively harming you, their opinions are not super relevant to you. But when you care so much about what other people say and what other people think, right down to minute word choice like this, it actually isn't a great sign from your own perspective. And I have to say that people who are intentionally gender confusing, going out into the world and then making unreasonable demands of people is not a good look for the LGBT community or for actual transsexual people who want to blend in and want to just be accepted and be left alone. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. It's the kind of thing that strikes a lot of people as unreasonable, and then they associate it with the whole LGBT community. And it's a small piece of everything that I think is bringing down this movement and this community, though it's not really a community. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and do hit that like button because this one did try my patience a little bit. It really did.